everyone, it's Ellen. For today's video, I just wanted to share a quick face-up story of some face-up practice I was doing on my Luts Kid Delf event head. The first thing I'm going to be doing getting started is just laying down some basic blushing, and as you can see, of course, I'm going to be wearing gloves for all of this to protect the face up, and I have already sealed it 3 times to create just a good base of sealant so that my pastels and my watercolors have something to stick down to. I'm using Schmicked Pastels on the face, and I'm just dipping them straight into the soft pastel bar, and using a brush just to do some basic blushing all over the face. I'm also going to be using some additional pastels in some darker colors for some of the details. Right now I'm just using a very dark red in the lip line just to define it before I blend it out with some other pinks. Next, I'm going to be using gouache paints and a very small detailed angle brush to define the eyeliner on the inside of the eyelid on both eyes. Next, I'm going to begin defining the eyebrows. I'm using a pan pastel, the soft version of the pan pastel in, I believe, burnt umber, but I'm not positive. I think that these are a little easier than using soft pastels for this first initial outlining, just because it's easy just to dip in and I can get just as much product as I need without going too overboard, and it gives me a good rough outline of the general shape of the eyebrows. But it's still just as forgiving as any other pastels. I can erase and blend out lines that I don't like or smudges I make with a brush or with a Q-tip, and then continue my work without too much trouble. You'll see me turning the head upside down pretty frequently while I'm doing the eyebrows. I find that that just helps with symmetry. It's really easy just to assume that there's symmetry if you're looking at it dead on. But when you turn it upside down, you can really notice if an eyebrow is much higher than the other or a different shape. So I like to turn it upside down just to make sure as I'm going. Now I'm going to further define the eyeliner that I set down with the gouache paint with some watercolor pencils. I believe this is either a Faber-Castell or a Derwent pencil. I will alternate between the two of those pretty frequently and just use those to define the eyeliner along the lash line, and then also make a little bit of a wing on the outside just to define the eyes. This is another process where you might need to turn the head upside down just to verify the symmetry of it. It's just a good way to double check that you're matching up with your eyeliner and your eyebrows without having too much work. For the eyelid line, I'm also using a watercolor pencil and just defining it quickly across each crease that is created just by the sculpt itself. For the lower lash line, I'm also going to be using a watercolor pencil. I just make sure it's very, very sharp, and I'm using a gray pencil just to define a first initial set of eyelashes that I'm going to go back over later to make a little darker, but this sets down just a basic outline of what I want the lashes to look like. And as I go, after sealing each time, I continue blushing just on the cheeks, the forehead, the lips, and anywhere that I really need to add a little bit of additional color to the head to make it look a little bit more natural. Here I noticed that there was a little speck of lint in a couple places on the face up that got stuck in the sealant, and using an X-Acto knife is a really good way just to get that spot out without ruining your sealant or the rest of your face up. So now I'm further defining the eyebrows, this time with a much darker brown pastel, since I already have that light brown set down from the first initial application. And so for this step, I will be using that dark brown pastel for the majority of the front of the eyebrow, and then I will switch to a watercolor pencil for the tail just to get a really sharp defined line. And I am using a kneaded eraser just to define the top and bottom of the eyebrow with any mistakes I might make. Having that first initial layer underneath that's been sealed makes it really easy just to make sure I stay symmetrical and keep the eyebrows the way that I want them without having to worry about the chance of undoing my work if I need to erase something and start over again. On this layer, I am just continuing to go over some of the lines I already made and just darken them up and make sure they're just a little bit more defined, make sure the eyeliner is really sharp and dark. And then I am going over the lower eyelashes one more time. So I have that first initial little layer there in the gray, and then I grabbed a darker gray, not black because I didn't want it to be too harsh, and just going over that with some slightly longer eyelashes. But that first initial layer there just adds a little bit of depth and makes a little bit of a shadow where the eyelashes would naturally be thicker. And then using a white pencil to define some hairs in the eyebrows. Don't mind my hair there, I was leaning forward just to make sure I got the details right. And then I decided to try a pink pastel this time to define the lip lines. I usually use white, but I actually really like the way that the pink turned out for a more natural lip line effect. And for the last step, after my last coat of sealant, I'm using just an acrylic clear gloss all over the lips just to create a really nice glossy lip that just really brings it all together in my opinion. And I do also always add a little bit of gloss to the lower lash line and to the tear duct just to give a little bit of kind of natural wetness where it would be like on a person. And I feel like it just makes the eyes really pop once you have the lashes and the eyes in, because there would be a little bit of reflect there. And with that, that is the face up complete. So thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you subscribe if you liked my video, and be sure to check out my Patreon if you want to support me. And be sure to leave a comment down below if you enjoyed this, if you found it helpful for your own face up experience. And I will see you guys in my next video. Thank you so much for watching. Bye everyone.